and thank you for joining us today for Legendary Comics 2.0 2021 and beyond. We're so sorry that we won't be seeing you at WonderCon, and we miss saying hello to you in person. Getting to talk with fellow fans about comics is one of the best parts of our job. From the Monsterverse to our YA initiative to adult fiction, we are so proud to bring a diverse, compelling, inclusive, and authentic slate of books to you. And we are just getting started. Speaking of Monsterverse, we are thrilled for the debut of Godzilla vs. Kong on HBO Max on March 31st. To celebrate, we have developed a most robust publishing plan to honor the on-screen meeting of these two colossal titans. Here are the legendary comic titles that will be in stores on March 30th. Written by Monsterverse newcomer Maria Nello, with stunning artwork by Zid. In Kingdom Kong, we join a team from Monarch as Kong faces a dark threat that challenges his reign over Skull Island. Written by fan favorite Greg Keyes, with thrilling art by Drew Edward Johnson and colors by Alan Pasalacqua. In Godzilla Dominion, we see Godzilla like never before. Godzilla might be king, but that doesn't mean that other titans won't rise to challenge his supremacy. Both prequel graphic novels feature brand new cover art by the icon, the man, the legend, Arthur Adams. We are so proud to announce our very first picture book, written by New York Times bestselling author Kiki Thorpe, with lush illustrations by the glorious Nidhi Chinani. In Kong and Me, we join Kong and Gia as they spend a day exploring all of the mysteries of Skull Island. You might even spot some of Skull Island's most famous residents lurking in the background. In stores on May 11th, our titles Skull Island, Birth of Kong, and Godzilla Aftershock are together in one collection for the first time ever. Monsterverse Titanthology Volume 1 has new, never-before-seen extras and features one incredible brand new Arthur Adams cover. And for more Godzilla vs. Kong goodness, check out these very cool titles by our awesome publishing partners. From our friends at Insight Editions, in the hardcover, Godzilla vs. Kong, One Will Fall, The Art of the Ultimate Battle Royale, written by Daniel Wallace, they will take you behind the scenes of the film on an epic scale. Godzilla vs. Kong, Sometimes Friends Fight, but They Always Make Up, written by Carol Herring, is a delightful board book featuring lessons in friendship and counting. From our friends at Titan Books, more Greg Key's goodness with Godzilla vs. Kong, the official movie novelization. It takes you deeper into the world of Godzilla and Kong. Next up, our rockstar editor, Nikita Kannekanti, is here to tell you all about the upcoming Legendary Comics YA titles.
Hi everyone, my name is Nikita Kannekanti and I'm an editor at Legendary Comics. Welcome to our WonderCon 2021 panel. In this segment, we'll be talking about Championess, which is one of our young adult graphic novels releasing in April of 2021. With us today on this panel, we have Kelly Zekas and Tarun Shankar, the writers, and Amanda Perez Puentes, the artist. Welcome. Before we dive into questions, we are going to show you the trailer for Championess. Hope you all enjoy it. Tarun, what inspired you and Kelly to tell Elizabeth's story?
It started basically just with the Tumblr post, and it was just about like a did you know type thing about Elizabeth. I sent that to Kelly, and both of us were just kind of surprised that we'd never heard of it until that moment. We kind of read a lot about like the demographics of Victorian England and Georgian England. Since there were a lot of holes in the actual historical facts for her, we found that it like really clicked well when we made her half Indian.
Kelly, Tarun touched on this a little bit, but can you talk about your research into Elizabeth and what is actually true in the story?
Yeah, I mean, you said you were surprised you'd never heard of her, but no one had. And that's kind of the interesting thing about it is she was probably the most famous boxer of her day, maybe in the era. You know that there's a woman out there named Elizabeth Wilkinson, and that she was a boxer who would challenge people by putting ads into newspapers. And we have some idea of what her records might have been, but she was also a braggart. So for all we know, she wasn't as good as she says. So we know she was a boxer. We know that she would have fought alongside the character that we have, James Stokes. We know that she was considered, or at least considered herself, the championess.
Amanda, I wanted to ask you, what made you want to be a part of this project?
The fact that this is about a woman struggling with her identity, that was like the first thing for me. As I worked on it, I became a fan of it. And like Elizabeth, she was so fun to draw, and she was so fun to like just like see what she was gonna do next.
It's been really fun. Elizabeth is definitely a fun person to watch on the page. And yeah, it's been great having you on the project in particular, because it took quite a long time to find the right artist for this project, and we knew that we wanted it to be a female artist because it's so important to tell. We think it's so important to tell female-centric stories with through the lens of a female artist. So it was a great find to find Amanda and see her work. So it's been a joy to have you on this project.
Yeah, I think we talked about how character driven it was, and I think that the whole story is. And Amanda's characters, like, we were just so drawn to the first sample she sent with her faces. Like, they're so expressive. And Tarun and I were writing novels. You don't get as many words to say what you want to say because you're relying on the art to do half that job for you. And Amanda does way more than half that job.
There was a panel near the end where we kind of forgot to write the description in for what's happening, and Amanda just drew it perfectly anyway. Like, she just knew exactly what we wanted there. So we're like, yep, okay.
I feel the same way. Like, with every panel description, there was just enough for me to know what was going on, but not so much that I felt overwhelmed. I think when you have fun reading something, it just makes it that much easier to like put it into the page. Honestly, I love it. Like, I loved the whole experience of it.
I wanted to talk a bit about everyone else. So we have James Stokes, who you have mentioned, Hannah. We talked a bit about Tess and James Fig. Can you talk a bit about these characters and what role they play in Elizabeth's story?
Stokes, Hannah, and James Fig, we kind of were inspired by like the little bits of historical fact we could find, like all those newspaper clippings and stuff. James Fig's he's the only one with like a image of him. He was considered the father of boxing, so there's like a couple sketches and paintings of him. James Stokes and Hannah Highfield, their names were mentioned in those boxing challenges, the same places that Elizabeth's name was mentioned.
We had a lot of fun playing around with what her relationship with Hannah would have been like, what her history with Hannah would have been like. And then Stokes, we knew she did these partner fights with him. So we imagined him as kind of like her trainer and her kind of like co-fighter in that way. And then you'll see if there's more.
I love that with Stokes, you guys chose to make him a Black man, which is really cool, I think. And I love the playing with race and gender in this whole story. I think it's important to tell historical fiction stories with a diverse cast of people.
With Stokes, we kind of some of the inspiration we took was from the boxer Bill Richmond. He was like the first famous Black boxer. He just had a really interesting life too. Someone should make a comic or movie out of his experience.
Someone's gonna hear Tarun saying that and they're gonna make it and they're not gonna cry.
I can't tell you how scared we were. Well, there were 2 years where we couldn't start, where we're like, someone is going to write her story. Someone is going to do it.
Yeah. And luckily we got there first. So cool. Well, thank you all for joining our panel, and thank you all for watching. I really hope you check out Championess in April. In this segment, we're going to be talking about The Heart Hunter, which is one of our new young adult graphic novels that will be coming out in August of 2021. With us today on the panel are Mickey George, the writer, and V. Gagnon, the artist. Welcome. Mickey, for those who don't know, can you tell us a bit about The Heart Hunter?
Yeah, so The Heart Hunter is kind of a fantasy twisted fairy tale, and it's set on an island where everyone's been magically cursed, so they have to wear their hearts outside of their bodies in jars. And they're kind of in a state of stasis where they can't grow old, they can't die, they can't change until they find their soulmate. And once you find your soulmate, you get to grow old together, so to speak, and then leave the island. And the main character in the book is Psyche, and she's a heart hunter, and heart hunters are able to see the soulmate connection between two hearts because their hearts are broken, which is kind of a play on the idea that heartbreak makes us more empathetic to other people's feelings and emotions.
V, your artwork for this story, it's just so perfect and it fits the world so well. Can you talk about designing the world and the research you did and your inspiration for it?
The Heart Hunter's world kind of became a homage to sort of the history of fairy tale illustration. I did a lot of research into sort of these turn of the century fairy tale illustrators like Ivan Biblin, Harry Clark, and Kenning Nielsen, and a bunch of research into medieval art and manuscripts and how all these different sort of cultures played with the similar stories. So I wanted the world to feel like not only was it like this little island, but also it was this big, diverse, lush place full of a lot of different approaches to similar ideas.
Nikki, in the past, we have talked about how one of the inspirations for this project is the soulmate trope in fan fiction. Can you tell us a bit about how you wanted to put your own twist on this trope and explore love in all its forms?
So the soulmate trope that comes up in, fan fiction and alternate universes and stuff, it's usually some kind of like external marker that lets you know that you're predestined to fall in love with someone. Like you see the world in black and white, and then you meet your soulmate and suddenly it's all in color, or like your soulmate's name is tattooed on your arm or something. As someone who is both super romantic and hypercritical of the way society perceives intimate relationships, I think a lot of what the Heart Hunter explores is the ways that soulmate trope contradicts itself and creates problems that people don't usually address. So it's sort of a way for me to address like the ways the idea of a soulmate doesn't always make sense and the problems it can create, and also kind of broadening what a soulmate actually means beyond just like one romantic partnership.
V, can you talk a bit about designing these characters?
So each of the characters are sort of inspired by different areas of sort of Europe and the surrounding areas like Northern Africa and the Middle East. So Psyche sort of has this Northern European vibe. Isaac is inspired by a lot of North African sort of aesthetics and clothing. I wanted him to be someone that could be very serious at one moment and then go to being a complete cinnamon bun, like in the exact same like breath. Marius, I pulled a lot of sort of French and Spanish influence for his look. Jez is sort of built to be sort of an antithesis to Psyche, where Psyche is sort of stable. Jez is lithe and flexible and looks like they're going to float away.
That's really cool. Yeah, one of the great things about your art is just your acting and the expressions that the characters have, and in moments of heartbreak especially, it's just there are some really emotional, touching scenes. Can you talk a bit about what it's like working together and sort of feeding off of each other as you work on the graphic novel?
I just think V was the perfect artist for this story. The thing about the Heart Hunter is there's so many abstract concepts, and it's both very human and then very broad in like a mythical sense, and it's tricky to find art that can maintain that balance really well. And the way that the Heart Hunter came together is I had a lot of the ideas and key plot points already set in place, but I hadn't finished writing the script, and seeing their art really influenced how I would write the script. So it's been really fun, and it really feels like the story as it exists now was like a collaboration of two people, and that what story emerged in the final version feels very much like it belongs to both of us.
Mickey and V, thank you so much for being with us today. As I said, I'm super, super excited about this project and ready to share it with the world. So can't wait. And everyone watching, thank you so much for watching, and hope you enjoy the Heart Hunter. In this segment, we're going to be talking about Lupina, which is one of our new young adult graphic novels that will be coming out in the fall of 2021. Here with us today on the panel are James Wright, our writer, Lee Bushka, our artist, and Bex Glendening, our colorist. Welcome, everyone. James, for those who don't know, would you be able to tell us a bit about Lupina?
In a nutshell, Lupina is a story about a little girl named Lupa who's orphaned and found and raised by a wolf. And together they go on this quest for revenge and answers and discovery. I think it draws on stories about kids who are lost in the wilderness and found by animals and raised by animals. And then they learn more about themselves and their world. The main inspiration was a famous manga series called Lone Wolf and Cub. And then that kind of led me into this path of like, okay, Tarzan, who's raised by apes, and there's Mowgli in the Jungle Book, who's raised by a bunch of different animals. And I was like, well, what if there was not that sense of community of other animals? What if it's just one animal, one child? And the wolf, needs to protect the child. And then as the child, Lupa, as she grows up, she starts to take care of the wolf. So it becomes a sort of like reciprocal mother-daughter kind of relationship.
Lee, I wanted to bring you into this conversation. You joined Lupina, you and James worked on it together before you guys brought the project to Legendary Comics. So I wanted to talk a bit about your art and how it fits the story. How did you go about approaching this world and designing the characters?
Yeah, when James and Josh mentioned the story to me, I just kind of was like, oh, this sounds really exciting. I like what all this is about. This is all pertaining to my interests, it sounds like. To start out, James and we kind of exchanged. He shared with me some ideas that he was, I guess, his inspiration for the setting, and I used that to kind of research. And then when it came to characters, I'm just going to play around and figure out, like, how do I see, I guess, James's descriptions, how do I visualize those?
Yeah, Lee's artwork is beautiful, and it really brings the story to life. Can you describe what your collaboration on this project is like and what it's like working together for so long?
I think in the early going, it was a lot of just back and forth about characters and that first sense of like when I saw Lee's first like drawings of the characters, and I was like, okay, this is going to work. We do have a lot of like back and forth about like when I see new designs or new pages from Lee, that kind of would spark me in new directions. And so the story was more organic, I think, in that way. We still knew what our endpoint was, the beats we wanted to hit, but that sort of back and forth, being inspired by what I saw Lee doing, gave me new ideas, and I would pitch his ideas to Lee, and Lee would like, that sounds cool, I can do that.
Bex, could you talk a bit about your approach to the colors? And in each phase, there is a new color introduced. So could you talk a bit about that process as well?
When I was approached, both Lee and James had the idea of adding in a new color with each phase, and they already had those colors planned out beforehand. So the first phase, we have red, which is primarily used for blood, and then it goes to green for phase 2. And then phase 3, we've got blue. In a couple of instances where Lupa's she's more wolf than girl, so I tried to keep red used for those scenes throughout the book, even if it's just like a single panel to kind of show the wolf side coming out.
That's a really cool way to approach each scene. Because
I knew that Lee and I weren't going to be able to do a series that would allow Lupa to age in a more normal, natural way. We sort of said, okay, well, we like condensed it in a sense. So you get like these little almost vignettes of different aspects of Lupa's growth and education.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a clever way to tell the story. So makes for an interesting graphic novel. I will definitely say that. Well, thank you everyone for joining us on the panel. We're really excited to share Lupina with you this year.
Hey WonderCon, I am Simon Curtis, and I'm so excited to announce The Witches of Silver Lake, my upcoming graphic novel with Legendary Comics. I was so inspired by the books that I loved in my childhood, like R.L. Stein's Fear Street and Goosebumps, and also things like Harry Potter. And I wanted to make something that was for a kid like me, something for gay kids, something for queer kids. And the story is about a gay boy named Elliot who moves to Los Angeles after his father's tragic death and enrolls in St. John the Baptist Academy, a prestigious private school in Silver Lake in Los Angeles. At which point he falls in line with the outcasts and kind of like a cool, mysterious group of kids who then introduce him to the underground occult world of crystals and magic and all those sorts of amazing things that exist in the real Silver Lake. But then they accidentally open a portal and summon demons and find out that magic is very, very real and that there is something bigger and much more nefarious at play operating around Elliot. So it's really fun. It's really cool. The art is insanely beautiful. Stephanie Sun, I found her on Twitter years ago because I had read the book Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller, and I was just researching fan art because I was so obsessed with the book. And Stephanie drew the most insanely beautiful, updated, like modern day high school versions of Achilles and Patroclus, and I fell in love with it. And when I took the meeting with Legendary, that was one of the first things that we talked about, was the art. And I reached out to Stephanie, and everybody at Legendary loved her artwork, and so did I, and we were lucky enough to get her for the project. So the book is so beautiful to look at, and it's so much fun. It's something that I definitely wish that I had when I was a teenager, and I think it's just a really exciting, fun adventure full of mystery, magic, and blood, and teen romance, all that fun stuff. But thank you so much. It was amazing to meet you all, and I look forward for you guys to check out The Witches of Silver Lake coming next year. All right, mwah, bye.
Hi, I'm Dana Melee. I'm the author of Tragic. I'm also the author of the YA dark academia thriller People Like Us and the upcoming YA horror thriller Summer's Edge next year. Tragic is a YA thriller / family drama mashup with an intensely visual presentation. It's based on William Shakespeare's Hamlet, a story very close to my heart. Tragic is the story of a queer teenage girl whose celebrity father dies under suspicious circumstances that may or may not involve her uncle. She teams up with her best friend and her ex-girlfriend to solve the murder when his ghost appears to her as his teenage self in the role of Hamlet. And then she begins to have visions that cast suspicion on herself and her family. And she has to sort of untangle a web of family secrets and face her own demons. So it's really fun. It has sort of echoes of The Flight Attendant and Shakespeare with teen drama. It has everything. I'm just kidding. Well, a lot. There's the artwork, really phenomenal. Something unique about this story is that Hamlet's character soliloquies are expressed visually as kind of hallucinations. The artwork brings them to life in such a passionate, sometimes disturbing, striking way. It captures the emotions perfectly. Shakespeare is really meant to be visual, and the artist did such a stunning job of bringing making this book feel like a performance, really. I was inspired by the work itself. In college, I played Hamlet many years ago, and at the time, I'd been kind of struggling with a number of life things, and connecting with the material helped me work through that stuff. So I thought back then, and I think now, that the themes in the play are really relatable to late teenage year type things. Hopefully not murder, but this is Shakespeare. Wink, wink. So I've always read Hamlet as a queer character, and I think if it were written today, it would be a psychological thriller. So all that came about organically. We're so excited to share this with you next year. This is the story of my heart of hearts. So thank you so much, and hope to see you through the pages, I guess. I don't know.
Thanks, Nikita. She really has put together an amazing slate of books. It's super exciting whenever art and scripts come in, and everybody is just clamoring to see them. We cannot wait to share these unique worlds with you.
Hi, I'm Richard Dinnick. I'm the writer and creator of Rob. You're about to watch a trailer for the series, which is currently available on Webtoon, with new chapters dropping every week. So I hope you enjoy. I wanted to modernise the mythos of Robin Hood because it's such a rich and deep mythology. We called this new world of Rob Renpunk. The world of Rob is in the far future. The Earth's resources have been depleted and Rob is up against some serious adversaries. It's interesting that we always come back to these classic heroes. With Robin Hood, he's certainly an outlaw, wishing he could do something to make the world better. And having this ethos of taking from the rich and giving to the poor, he can do that.
We love Richard and the whole team on Rob. Make sure you check out a new chapter of Rob for free every Wednesday on Webtoon. Ren Punk never looked so good. Did we mention that it's free? If you like what you see, please be sure to check out some of our other titles like Accursion, Firebrand, Annihilator, Pokemon Detective Pikachu, Bram Stoker's Dracula starring Bela Lugosi, and the Trick or Treat Omnibus. Thank you so much for your time today. We are a small but mighty team. We are working hard every single day to bring you great comics. For additional information about these titles and more, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We love to hear from you. We are counting the days until we can share all of these updates with you in person. Thanks again.